All right. Dad, couch model Richard Brenner. Welcome to Conversations on the Couch, from the couch.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
The last couch model interview I did was on your couch at home. And the idea behind Conversations from the Couch is that I will be interviewing each person on their couch. And I already did it, but I did it with your wife, my mom, Leslie Brenner.
Oh, she's good.
She was a good interview. And it was interesting after our conversation, she said, I don't know how many times I've been interviewed. And I would imagine that that's actually probably very different from you. I believe that you've probably told your life story maybe
Once or twice.
a zillion times. And I can't wait to hear it again.
You got it.
And what I like about what we're going to jump into is this couch specifically is different than your home couch. It will tell a different story.
Yes.
It will tell a new story. So couch modeling came to me at a time when my anxiety was at an all-time high. It was a creative outlet. It was a hobby, if you will. It kind of brought me to this idea of completing me into this whole person, although, it's always changing and you always need new things and the anxiety's still there for sure. I don't know if I would consider this couch and this path and journey your creative outlet, but I would consider it to be a tool, a healing mechanism, and that's why this is an exciting conversation, I think. So, tell me about your couch.
Well, this couch is the couch I use for my hypnotherapy sessions. Actually, what I'm doing now is I'm combining hypnotherapy with restorative yoga. And so I put people on this couch and I put pillows under them in various spots. And then we do trance where they get a chance to go into their subconscious and unconscious mind and work on solving stress issues or other issues that they come to my office with. So this couch is a tool for me. It's a work tool.
How did you... Now, okay, so I'm going to use your words. You have said to me throughout my life that I am scared of everything.
That's true.
And I'm going to say that...
But here's the thing. You're scared of everything, and you're also one of the most brave people I've ever met. So there's this line here that's really interesting. Because you're very courageous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How did you get here? Like, how do you feel like you are an anxious type? How did you decide that healing people was where you wanted to go next?
Do I feel like I'm an anxious type? No, I don't. But on the other hand, we all have anxiety. We all have stress. And how I got here was I was in the restaurant and bar business for about over 40 years. I started as a bartender at a blues bar in Chicago where I was fortunate enough to see all the great bluesmen of the last generation, and I loved doing it, but I moved to Los Angeles with your mother in 1980, and we wanted to open up a bar, not a blues bar, but a bar, and that didn't happen. And then in 1990, we opened up a place called Highland Grounds. So my dealing with customers has always been in a way sort of therapeutic. They say bartenders are psychiatrists. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I like one-on-one encounters, relationships, and I was getting to the end of my work in the restaurant business, and I just knew it wasn't really doing it for me anymore, and I started looking for something new. And as it turns out, I have a friend who has been practicing hypnotherapy for over 20 years, and he and his wife just started having classes. It was called Mind Matters, and his wife taught it, Lisa Hubler. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It related to me.
You moved from Chicago to Los Angeles.
Yes, I did.
You didn't start in restaurants right away.
Well, I did, and then I didn't for a while. I started in restaurants, and then I worked at a bank and some other things, and then I got back into it.
Just trying to get just trying to establish again your path to get you here, because it has been a colorful one, I'd say.
Well, yeah, I've met some colorful people for sure.
A celebrity.
I am a celebrity, and by that you might be wondering what a celebrity is. I'm the person who, when I go into a parts store from the restaurants, and I say I'm from Hugo's, they go, oh, Hugo's Tacos, and so I'm not a celebrity, but for all us working schlubs, which I consider myself, I'm a celebrity.
I just like to talk about this because, again, this last year has just been an interesting one for me, as I've been trying to kind of figure out where I want to be and where I want to go, and I've been talking to people more and more about where they are and how they got there. You know, you said something really interesting to me. You were 31, 32, you just had Rachel.
30.
You were working at
A restaurant, bartending.
And you said what?
I said, this can't be it.
This can't be it.
This can't be it. I was just standing there, and I had a brand new daughter and our first child. And
shout out Rachel.
Rachel. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I wanted to open a bar and a restaurant, not a restaurant really. And one of our regular customers, you talk about characters, this guy was a total character, and he was a film director. And he said, you know, you talk about wanting to open a place, why don't you get a job like at a bank and learn something about finance? I said, well, why would a bank hire me? And he said, I don't know. So I went to apply for a job as a loan officer. I didn't even know how to spell mortgage.
Yeah.
And this guy hired me who was coked and drunk out of his brain. And he hired me. He says, I just need people. You'll learn. And about 2 months into it, the mortgage rates at the time were at 12, 13%, which is now today they're at like 3. Well, they went from 12% to 9%. Well, everybody in the world wanted to refinance their loans. So all I had to do was answer phones and fill out applications. So that year I made more money than I ever had in my whole life. I think I made $38,000. I mean, I didn't even know what to do with that much money. And then I did it for 2 more years, and you know, I did better and better, but really wasn't my thing. I mean, there were guys who were doing it who were just super successful, made huge money, and were just very, very competitive. And it just wasn't really my style.
Yeah.
I don't knock them. That was what they were good at.
Yeah.
So
then you started Highland Grounds.
Well, then a woman I had met, a designer who I had met at my first job, Ellen Christoph, I was telling her, I had told her for years I wanted to open a bar. And then around 1988, 1989, the coffee house started happening again in Los Angeles. So there were 2 or 3 of them, and they were packed. People just needed an outlet. So I said, well, I can do that. I don't need as much money as I thought I was going to need to buy a liquor license and all that. And she said, I know somebody who roasts their own coffee and has been talking to me about that. So she hooked me up with Tom Kaplan. About 3 months later, we opened up Highland Grounds.
And you guys had that for 17 years.
Had it for 17 years.
Then you guys took over Hugo's.
Well, then Tom, whose father started Hugo's, in 1975. He lived down the street from this little coffee shop called Smoky Joe's. And the guy who owned it was exhausted and didn't want to do it anymore. So he asked Tom if he wanted to buy it from him. And Tom said, "Do you want to go in on this together?" I went, "Yeah, great location."
Yeah.
And then in 2000, we opened up Hugo's Studio City.
So, and then just this year, 2019, Dad retired.
Yes, I did. I turned 65.
65. And decided that it was important to go back to being on the front lines one-on-one. And
One-on-one. You know, I talked to my friend who, what actually happened, if I can even break the story down more, is I was driving home and he had worked for me at Dale had worked for me at Hugo's. He'd given me my first job in Los Angeles at the restaurant called Le Cafe he owned. And I called him and I said, and he knew all the owners and he knew the whole thing. So I called him up and I said, "Look, I just want to tell you I'm retiring." And he said, "No." And I said, "Yeah, I'm done." He said, "What are you going to do?" I go, "Well, I'm thinking about a bunch of stuff." He said, "Well, we're doing these classes." So I immediately said, "No, I'm not interested." Mm-hmm. And then we talked for a little bit more, and then we hung up. And it took me another 15 minutes or so to get home from where I had hung up with him. And I walked in the front door. I said to Leslie Brenner, my wife, your mother, I said, "I know exactly what I want to do." And she goes, "What?" I go, "I want to do hypnotherapy." And she goes, "What? Really?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And she said, always supportive, said, "Yeah, go for it." So I signed up for the classes, and I did my work, doing people, practicing on people, did enough hours, and became certified.
Just to talk about it for 1 to 2 more minutes. I have been your guinea pig for the entire experience. Reluctantly, for most of it.
Reluctantly, yeah.
I will say that there was one time where there were, 2 experiences. The first time when you had finished your classes but needed hours, and you were it was your first time doing it, and I said, "It just sounds like you're making fun of somebody."
Right. Who shall remain nameless.
Yeah. And then the second time you did it, and I was really struggling with my anxiety. And afterwards you said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel fine, I guess." And then I burst into tears. And so I will say that I think you're on the right path.
There's all sorts of emotions that come bubbling up with people.
Yeah.
And that's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
And what I think is in this space, it's what happens here stays in here. And I want people to become in touch with their emotions. I'm not a therapist.
No.
So I don't do that kind of work. But what I do is I work with people so they can help themselves figure out ways to get over whatever anxiety they might have or phobia they might have.
Right, and I think the idea, again, of just figuring out ways of trying to get better and be better and feel better is just like the only way in which we can keep moving forward. It's like,
yes.
that's
Yes.
Anyway, Dad, where are you most comfortable?
In my chair at home.
No question.
With a remoter in my hand.
A remoter?
Yeah.
The remote control.
Remote control, yeah.
What is something you've done that you considered uncomfortable, but it has paid off in the end?
Ugh. I don't know. I mean, getting a job at the bank was totally uncomfortable, but I had a family and I needed to move on, and I didn't know the lexicon that the people were using. I didn't know what it was a new world.
Yeah.
And so that was incredibly uncomfortable. I can't think of anything else right now, but I'm sure there's much more.
Do you think you found fulfillment?
In life?
Sure.
Yes. I mean, first of all, Leslie Brenner, your mother, my wife, is just, the best partner, and I love her, and she's given me tremendous fulfillment in life. I mean, listen, believe me, as you know, we disagree about stuff, and we're very vocal about our disagreements. But we also love each other very dearly and deeply. So that's given me tremendous fulfillment. Hugo's, the restaurants, yeah, they were very fulfilling. I wanted to be at a place that was busy and made people happy, and that was Hugo's.
Yeah.
So I was very happy about that. As far as this is concerned, I just started 3 weeks ago with my own practice, but the people I've done so far, yeah, it makes me feel really good. I was at a convention where there was a speaker, and he said, people, when asked why they do this, hypnotherapy, say, well, it's to help people. But really, it's about, you feel good about helping people. And he said, so be honest with yourself. And that's the truth.
Right. The esteemable acts. Why not? What motivates you to connect with others?
I just like people. I think people are just interesting, not everyone, but I'd say a large percentage of the people, if somebody's being difficult, once you get over that difficult, people are interesting.
Yeah.
We're all so different.
Right.
So.
I just realized that, the more and more people, I don't know if you know this about us, but people call you and I intense and very direct.
Okay. Is that bad?
I think so.
Okay.
But I'm open to it. I'd rather be open and direct and intense than disappear and
yeah. Me too.
I don't know. I just I like connecting more too, and that's what I found also with a couch model. I just like that so much more. Anyway, couch model has.
I'm very comfortable with myself, I have to say.
Me too.
Yeah, I am. I really am, and I don't suffer from a lot of self-doubt or, sure.
I do.
There's always issues, and there's a word I'm looking for that's escaping me right now. Well, it's sort of like body image and stuff, sure.
Insecurities?
Yeah, a little insecurities, sure I have those. But overall, it's not something I spend a lot of time thinking about.
How do you think you got there?
I just think that's who I am. That's why I was born.
Okay, and then for no other reason, but because I enjoy laughing, can you think of either the funniest thing just a funny story about you and I, or just the funniest thing?
A funny story about you and I?
A funny time that made you, a funny moment of you and I, or something funny that just happened to you that made you laugh really hard.
Well, God, there's a million.
I always think of the guy in the bread suit with you in the baseball game. That one's pretty funny.
Where I said,
that guy has a lot of dough.
He's making a lot of dough.
Also, I guess yours have a lot of drugs involved.
Well, I'm thinking, it's funny because we were walking yesterday. We took a long walk together, and we were talking about my mother, who was one of the most not funny people on purpose in the world. She just had the weirdest sense of humor, and
she actually didn't have a big sense. She didn't have a sense of humor.
But she would do things that were really funny.
That I just laughed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking yesterday about how we were at my dad's 90th birthday, and he was sort of losing his memory at that point. But we came back after eating dinner, and we sat around the table, and my mom was still sharp at the time. And we started talking about eating. And my mother did this thing where I said, "Do you like French fried potatoes?" And she goes, "Potatoes?
Potatoes, they destroy
They
me.
destroy me."
Well, she also just like made up the fact that she couldn't eat, I think. Like,
All I know is we couldn't breathe and we were laughing so hard.
that one didn't get me. I just remember, but you weren't there for this, when she like opened up your bar mitzvah photos and she was like, they've died, they're no longer with us, they've passed. And I was just like, what? You weren't there for that one.
And then yesterday again when we were walking, you said one of her famous lines, "Kitchen's closed."
Yeah, rise
Which,
and shine.
who knows what kitchen closed. But I don't want to pick on my mother. She was a good mom.
Yeah, the best.
You know, I was listening to a comedian yesterday say he's a professional comedian and he makes people laugh, and people come up to him all the time who aren't professional and they go, "I want to tell you a funny story," and it's never funny.
Yeah.
So I mean,
don't have
funny
any.
things have happened to me, a lot of funny things, but it would be a long involved story that might not be funny to
Mom
whoever's
had a great
listening.
one.
Which was?
Actually, you know what? She didn't.
Yeah,
We ended up laughing at you. That was what was funny.
there you go. And you know what? I like it when people, I know Trump is very thin-skinned and is awful
yeah.
for it. When you and your sister pick on me, I think it's funny.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know.
I
if
do.
you All
I do.
right. Well.
I laugh.
Anyway, thank you so much, Dad. I love you dearly.
Love you too.
I'm really excited for this for you, and
I'm excited for this for you.
thank you.
You can't have my couch though.
Well,
It's my couch.
I'll have to take a photo on it for sure.
Okay, that you can do.
Okay. Till next time. Thank you. Bye.